All right, so the whole barbecue restaurant in Etobicoke situation has gotten even more crazy. Yesterday, the owner was arrested. There was a massive police presence. I don't think anything's really going on today. I think it's pretty much going to end up in court, I think. I mean, given that he's been arrested, the cops broke in, changed the locks on him, I think. So yeah, this situation has gotten a lot worse. I have heard speculation that other businesses in the area are planning on opening. I know there was a gym that like opened, but it was like outside. But again, hopefully more and more businesses open as an FU to the government because again, none of this stuff makes any sense. It doesn't do anything where we are, whatever, 8 months into this situation and the lockdowns. I mean, what more evidence do we need that they don't work than the amount of time we've already spent on them? Right? Like it doesn't make any sense. But this is from JP Louisi here saying there are many ill-informed clowns out there cheering on Canada's descent into fascism. A lot of them may one day have police break down their door in order to enforce irrational and unconstitutional laws in the name of public safety. May they remember today, hashtag end the lockdown. Now, again, this is something that really astounds me. Now, it doesn't astound me when the more you learn about human psychology and the modern day political scenario, but to the average person, I guess, it's very astounding in that whenever you hear about the whole World War II German stuff that went on, the history of communism, it always shocks people. Why would people go along with that? Why wouldn't people say anything? But they're dumb enough to not even realize that they would have done it as well. Now, again, everybody would like to think, oh, I wouldn't go along with it, but the only way you can legitimately say that, I believe, is if you're standing up against stuff like this, because when it comes to that kind of stuff, at the time, it almost always seems like it's you're on the winning team, right? It almost always seems like you're on the winning team when you do that kind of stuff. Now, it's not going to look like it both then and now. Um, I mean, looking back on it, we're going to look back, and I mean, at least the people that have brains are going to think, man, you remember when government was doing all that crazy stuff, and it turned out to be for pretty much no reason. That the lockdowns do nothing, the mask mandates do nothing. We're going to shut down small businesses, but we're going to allow large businesses to stay open. The big corporations, they can do whatever they want. You know, Anybody with a brain is going to look back and absolutely laugh at it. And I think that the only people that can legitimately say, "Hey, that was stupid. I wouldn't have went along with that stuff from the crazy stuff from the past." Um, sorry, the only people that can say that they would have legitimately been against this kind of stuff is I think people who are standing up against stuff like this. Now, again, it's not just stuff like this, and this isn't even overly a political thing. I think the biggest difference is that the both sides of the political spectrum, at least as far as the politicians go, support this garbage, at least to most of the time. But I think as far as the everyday right winger or left winger goes, it's largely the left wingers that are going along with it. And why is it? It's basic individualism versus collectivism difference, right? And again, I think that's the main difference. I do think that that's the main difference in that collectivism always ends up horrible things always, come from collectivism. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. So, um, I don't know what's going to come out of this whole situation. I really don't. I mean, if there's any justice in the system that the this guy that runs this restaurant will win. I think he has a GoFundMe that's already. I think it's up over 100. I think it's like 130,000 last I seen. And again, if they were smart, I think they would cash that out because GoFundMe is rather famous for shutting down GoFundMe's that go against the political narrative. I guess when they shut down Kyle Rittenhouse's and they've shut down a lot of them like that. So if they were smart, they would cash that out because I think $150,000 should be enough. And I mean, you could always start another one too. There's nothing stopping you from starting another one. So if I was him, I would cash that out because if they shut it down, well, then you're up the creek without a paddle. So, yeah, this is a very bad precedent for Canada. I think the worst thing about it is that so many people are going along with this. Why do so many people go along with it? I think it's just basic human psychology that people want to fit in. They want to at least appear to be liked very few people want to be the people that take the stand, right? And this is the craziest thing, is that the people who have made the greatest moral stands throughout history were always people that did things that were very unpopular at the time, right? Like, standing up against slavery, that was incredibly unpopular at the time, right? Like, um, and I mean, endless examples. Like, there's endless examples, right? Um, and the craziest thing is we have a lot of these people that think that that they're taking this holy moral stand by doing something that requires very little willpower, or you have very little to lose, right? Like, you have very little to lose. And I think you can't really consider yourself this holy figure if you're just going along to get along. Like, I don't understand how people square that away in their heads. Um, but again, what's going to come out of this? I don't think a whole lot will come out of this. I think that there isn't a whole lot of justice left in Canada. We no longer live in a free country. I don't even think we lived in a. You can argue that we lived in a free country prior to this whole situation, but this virus situation has just confirmed that belief. I legitimately don't understand how people can argue we still live in a free country. I really don't. And it's the thing that really bothers me about Remembrance Day too, is that we have all these people that, they go to the Remembrance Day ceremonies and they post on their social media about, lest we forget, or any of that other stuff. And not that that stuff's wrong, but the thing that really bothers me is that most of these people, again, the people watching this probably are most likely to be exceptions to that rule, you support abolishing all of their, and then some, right? Not only do you support abolishing the rights that they fought for, you support um, implementing the direct things that we fought against, right? You support, we fought against authoritarianism. We fought against this kind of garbage that the government is now pushing and most people are supporting, right? Like, I don't know how people square that away in their heads. I really don't. And Jason Kenney came out, I think it was a couple days ago, and he said, in the spring, we made a stupid mistake with restrictions that tilted the playing field toward big box stores by keeping them open while closing our small businesses. For that, I apologize. With these carefully targeted measures to slow the spread, we won't make that mistake again. So, I mean, good news and bad news. Good news being, it seems like they've committed to not shutting down businesses. But on the flip side, they've committed to making things about as inconvenient as humanly possible to run said business, which I think is a massive downside. But also on the plus side, I think Jason Kenney's got to be one of the first politicians that I've literally, I mean, there's probably some other ones, but one of the only politicians, at least in Canada especially, that have admitted their mistakes, because pretty much every politician has made mistakes. Let's be honest. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, and again, I don't see how people can make the whole "you're biased" argument here, considering the fact that I've been more critical of Doug Ford than I have been Justin Trudeau on this whole situation. So you really can't make the bias argument. I mean, they still will, but they'll do it no matter what. But that doesn't make any sense. Um, but again, you have to give credit where credit is due. They admitted they're wrong, but on the flip side, are they going to admit that the mask mandates don't work? No. I think that they're doing this because they know the majority of people know this, right? The majority of people know that it makes no sense to allow Walmart, Costco, Superstore, these big corporations. It makes no sense to allow them to be open, but not allow the mom and pop, small businesses to be open. It makes no sense, because what is the difference, right? That you have to buy stuff regardless of where you go, right? Um, so again, it may I to be critical of them, I still think you need to be heavily critical of the government on this kind of stuff, because the amount of damage that they have done is, I think, irreparable, and I think that the worst of it's still to come. Like, the worst of this whole situation is still to come, and I think that's the scariest thing about it. And I think that's what a lot of people, and I think the scariest thing about it is a lot of people think that we're out of the woods, or we're very close to being out of the woods. That, oh, once we get the cases down, we'll be good to go, right? But the economic damage, I think, is going to be far worse, and the ramifications thereof. It's not just the economic. This is the thing that the idiot leftists always bring up. Oh, well, who cares if some corporations lose money, even though the corporations made well a lot. Again, the absolute stupidity of these people. They complain endlessly about, oh, the corporations and the billionaires have got so much richer, but they're stupid enough to have supported the policies that made them richer. again, you mock people that defend small businesses, but on the and by default, right, supporting the billionaires. You can't mock people defending small businesses and then turn around and complain about the big corporations and the billionaires getting rich, because of course they're going to get rich. Like, are you like dumber than a, you got, like, monkeys could figure this stuff out. Like, monkeys literally could figure this stuff out, but yet we have these leftists that can't. Now, the real reason they can't do it is that because small business owners are more likely to be right wing. Jason Kenney supports something, therefore they have to be against it, right? Jason Kenney, criticized the big corporations, so now the left is all of a sudden defending the big corporations. It's very funny. Like, you look at these left wing echo chambers like Reddit and these Facebook pages and stuff, which one of the biggest complaints they have is, though, the big corporations and, Jason Kenney, all he cares about is helping out his rich corporate buddies. But yet, when he implements a policy that hurts the big corporations, then all of a sudden they're against it. It's almost like you guys are just against it because Jason Kenney is against it, right? They don't actually care about the big corporations and the rich getting richer. They only care about it if it'll benefit them politically. They don't care about it if it won't. So again, I mean, I'm somewhat neutral on this. I mean, you have to give them props for admitting they were wrong, but on the flip side, you also have to be heavily critical still, the fact that they still have admitted a lot of things that they've been wrong about. So yeah. This is from Jeannie Tix here on Twitter, and they say current fines for non-compliance of pandemic rules are more than federal government fines for MPs violating ethics laws in Canada. Let that sink in. And again, like, the entire system is completely backwards. The entire system is completely backwards. And the craziest thing is that you try to explain this to the average person. And again, it's like trying to explain, like, physics to a 4-year-old, right? Like, it's impossible to even describe. And the craziest thing, the thing that's the most crazy is that you have people that the rules don't apply to them, right? That the rules do not apply to them. They can do pretty much whatever they want. Justin Trudeau can funnel millions of dollars of taxpayer money to him and his family, and that's perfectly fine, right? They get their 100 or whatever was it, like a $200-300 fine. Um, not only that, they can be convicted of, or not convicted, I don't know if that's the right word, but found guilty of ethics violations. What is he at? 3 times now? 4 times? And again, nothing happens. His support is up apparently in the polls. Again, so, like, the thing that really boggles my mind is how can people defend a system where there's such rank double standards, and then the double standards hurt them, right? It's not even as if the double standards benefit them. Like, it's absolute insanity. It's absolute insanity. And speaking of government corruption, this is from CBC here, titled "Former Conservative Leader Andrew Scheer Hired His Sister While Serving as Speaker." Sources. So again, this isn't just a left wing thing. This is exactly what I've been saying. Exactly what I've been saying. This isn't necessarily something that's only a problem on one side of the aisle. This is a government problem. This is a problem of the government having so much unchecked power, right? So much unchecked power that again, I don't really care how good of a person a lot of these people claim to be either, or you claim to be. I think it would be very hard when there's that much of an incentive to not abuse the system. I think it would be almost like, especially like, that you can do this kind of stuff and face next to no punishment whatsoever. Like, who wouldn't do it, right? Like, who wouldn't do it? And again, like, you talk to people and tell them, oh yeah, we got to change this. It's really a stupid way of doing things, and they defend it. Like I pointed out too, like, I don't understand how people square this away in their head. A system where the government takes your money, embezzles it, launders it for themselves, and how you defend that. Like, it is literally someone stealing from you and you turning around and defending the thief. Like, how insane do you have to be to square that away? I don't get it. I really don't get it. And again, like I pointed out, it's not just a left-wing thing. It is a problem of the government having too much unchecked power, too much of an incentive for them to do this kind of stuff and get away with it. Like, too much. I mean, if you get caught doing stuff like this, you should have to pay it all back and you should lose your job. and that's at the very least. Like that's at the very least. Like Justin Trudeau should not be prime minister. They should have to pay it all back, and anybody who benefited, from that should lose their seat as well. They should be disqualified from holding any form of political office again in their life. Like there needs to be an incentive to do the right thing. Now, again, we don't want to make it so bad that no good people want to get into politics. There's a lot of people that talk about, that want the rules to be too strict, right? Like you got to have a good balance. But the problem right now is that there's no incentive whatsoever to do the right thing. And every incentive is the other way around. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. If you want to donate, you can do that as well. But at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And stay tuned for more.